The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Theo Goodman from Haas Online.
Good evening, everyone.
Gabriel D. Vine from Future Rant.
Good afternoon, Internet, and hello, posterity. Great to be here.
Tone Vase from Liberty Life Trail.
Good evening, everyone. It's going to be a great episode.
Chris Ellis from ProTip and the World Crypto Network.
Welcome to the Tony Vase Show. I'm so proud to be here.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue 1. Issue 1, Zcash Unleashed. Zcash exploded onto the futures market this week and now has been released into the wild. The allegedly anonymous and encrypted cryptocurrency who was blessed itself by Bitcoin developer Peter Todd at its baptism can now be mined by anyone. Zuko himself presented this week at the San Francisco Bitcoin meetup, answering any and all questions about the Zaftic cryptocurrency, including questions from Vitalik Buterin himself of Ethereum fame. Will it work? Will Zcash truly be anonymous? And are investors correct in guessing that people will pay almost anything to be truly anonymous online? Theo Goodman. Mr. Theo, you're muted. Can we hear you?
Did you ask me something?
You're number 1. Will people pay anything to be anonymous online? Is Zcash going to succeed?
Well, one way to help yourself succeed is to have a very high price upon launch, because then all of the miners will freak out and everyone will think it's the coolest thing ever to mine it. And it's even double cool if you get 20% of all the mined stuff and everyone's mining it like totally nuts. And I think that if I understand right, they've already accidentally mined 3 days worth of coins in less than a day or something like that. But I don't remember the numbers. But so something is up with that. Will people pay anything for it? I don't know. But this is one thing that can happen when you have a futures market open for something that doesn't exist yet. And I think there was only 2-to-1 leverage on Bitmex, but it doesn't really matter. It could have even been 1-to-0. If you have it, you had that also with Lisk. Yobit had basically a future on it, with no leverage, and that got pumped up really high. So just using the same model that we've seen before. Except that this is not an ICO coin, it's a mineable coin. But yeah, what you do is you get somebody, let's just say as a conspiracy theory, somebody kind of gets the price going up before, creates a lot of hype, and they could sell on the launch, like when it launches on Polo or wherever. But what you do is you're going to bait a whole bunch of people to mine this. And I think that probably on Google, you're going to see this crazy surge of searches. How do I mine Zcash? What I want to say is, if you think Zcash is cool, Pcash.
Pcash is definitely cool. And even while we were preparing for this show, Zcash started out around 3,000 Bitcoins per one Zcash. We've then seen a fall all the way down to about 16 Bitcoins per Zcash. Then just as we were discussing the show and getting going, it's rebounded to 24 Bitcoins for Zcash. We've seen it in the 32 down to 16, up to 24. Just some really interesting stuff. I suppose if you had bought at 16, you could now sell at 24 at a fantastic profit. Gabriel D. Vine, your thoughts on Zcash?
I'm so surprised that you called on Theo and me instead of the resident Zcash commenters here. I mean, Tone and Chris's opinions are going to be about 50,000 times stronger than Theo's and mine. But hey, why not? I just definitely saw this one coming. I didn't have time to, jump in and leverage the stupidity of young men, as Vinay Gupta called them, young men who can't control their risk appetite for speculating on these technological innovations and losing huge amounts of money. And he was pointing to ethical and moral considerations in drawing wealth off of these unfortunate men of low wisdom. So yeah, apparently Chuck thinks I'm a warm-up act. Just you wait until we get to the other topics, Chucky boy. Zcash, it was very obvious to see this pump and dump coming from a mile away. I was chagrined to read about a 20% founder quote-unquote reward built into the mining. So basically the clients, I guess, as the protocol as it exists now, whenever the what's it called, the block reward comes out, every block, literally 20% of it is siphoned off into a bunch of addresses that are hard coded into the protocol that I just read on the protocol white paper. Now, the mathematics for the founder reward were far more complex. I was not able to parse it, and the 20% number is hearsay. I really definitely can't arrive at that number myself from the math equations in the white paper. I will say about this white paper, in comparison to the Steam white paper, which was essentially when you are walking down the middle of the supermarket, and I say middle because that's where all the junk food is. You grab that box of chicken and a biscuit or whatever, lab coat guy created foods that were, whatever, user tested in labs, and you get this funky edible substance that provides the body no nutrition. You look at the ingredients, and there's weaponized wheat is the first ingredient, and then the rest is just gobbledygook filler. And that's what the Steam It white paper was. It was absolutely full of total trash. Tone did a thorough and excellent analysis. I encourage everyone to take a look at his tweets or blog, Liberty Life Trail, to see the work that he did on that, the good work. Unlike that, Zcash, from the protocol white paper, it definitely, that is a white paper. Steam It was not a white paper. That was basically what you might call a canard to distract people and make you think that there's a white paper, make you think that they actually put in the work to create a real system when it was complete bullshit. Zcash is obviously a real thing. Now, just because something's a real deal doesn't mean that it can't hide scams like this founder reward. You could argue that it's not a scam and that the founder's reward deserve 20% of all the mining revenue in perpetuity. I don't know if that's what it is, but that's what it seemed to be for me. Or maybe it trails off over time. I'm not quite sure. Maybe, hey, you could argue that they deserve that. And certainly it's a real white paper. Zuko is obviously, as far as I'm aware, a real researcher with actual code under his belt. And please correct me if I'm wrong, rest of the panel. So, it seems less scammy than the DAO or Steemit, some other the scams that we've been calling out recently. However, I have been hearing some code smelling some code wafts about some centralized, delegated, federated infrastructure that is not quite a decentralized crypto cash. So anybody jump in on the chat and let me know if you know anything about that. So that could be a real problem because, as you know, especially a privacy and an anonymity focused altcoin like Zcash would be a juicy target for those who wish to surveil and control transactions. So anything that is centralized and can possibly be tracked or linked to human beings made out of atoms, as we are, it would be a very, very big problem for the future of this. In addition, I don't get the impression that a single one of these innovations that have been placed into Zcash couldn't extremely easily be brought into the Bitcoin ecosystem with pull requests over the following year, 2, 3 at the most. So this is a limited time offer of pump and dump goodness. Feel free to jump on and gamble and incur Mr. Gupta's condemnation.
We do have a Zcash price update. It was at 16, rose to 22. Now it's back up to 28. This is an incredible pump. We're talking not dollars. We're talking Bitcoins. It's jumped that many Bitcoins. I don't even understand. Tone, did we miss another opportunity? Should we have been day trading before the show? Tell us about Zcash.
Oh man. All right. So since Zcash is the topic, I once again had to go and dig up my my shirt, my famous shirt that I wear when a topic like this comes up. Regular followers of the show should know exactly what that symbol is, though many of the traders of Zcash might have been too young to know that symbol. All right. I just want to screen real quick. Get some disclaimers out of the way. All right, so this was a chart from May 20th, about a month before the Dow imploded. This is the day I first heard about the Dow. The following chart was released. This chart was updated. The Dow imploded on June 18th. On June 19th, this chart was updated where the Dow has been replaced by Steemit. You see the Dow right there has been replaced by Steemit. And then earlier this week, I believe Monday, on October 24th, I did a little bit about Zcash, my usual 10 to 15 minutes in the early on. And there it is. It's on record. It's on it's on record. It's on video. Zcash. I never thought the Dow would be beat in stupidity, and then the blockchain Jesus gave us Steemit, and now blockchain Jesus is giving us Zcash. So okay, so the Dow was more of just complete nonsense and stupidity. It's hard to say that it was a blatant scam. It was just too obvious. Steemit is a blatant scam. Daniel Latimer is a serial scammer. That one was easy. So Zcash is a little bit harder. Wait, where is it? Here we go. Zcash is a little bit harder on the scam side because they are at least understand what Bitcoin is. They tried getting this done as a Bitcoin BIP. The smart people at the core developers at Blockstream, they told them this is stupid, and therefore he had to go and create a coin. I also tweeted out some suggestions for people for comments. These are past comments about the Dow and what I've said about Monero and Steem. So take a look at my Twitter, and I've already prepared comments for you. All you have to do is, you can still curse me out. All you have to do is just simply replace the Dow or Steem or Monero with the current pump of choice, which happens to be Zcash. So they have to know this is nuts, because this cannot compete with Bitcoin for the same reason that Monero couldn't. At least now, a lot of the Monero pumpers will jump on the bandwagon. You guys mentioned the price, and this is where let me talk about the good part, right? So I'm going to defend for a minute. Wait, that's our chat. Here it is. I'm going to defend
current price of Zcoin, 26 Bitcoins. It just dropped another Bitcoin, 25, 26 Bitcoins.
So I'm going to defend them a little bit. So this is just highlighting the stupidity of this thing. They decided to throttle how much Zcash is going to come into existence in the first block in the first day. So here's someone's estimate. I know Theo said that they already overshot this. I haven't heard that speculation. But this was supposed to be one of the estimates. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. This is complete randomness. So after the first day, we're only going to have 104 Zcash. So that means when Zcash started trading, there was a less than one Zcash there. So when you get this price of, $2,000, 2,000 Bitcoins per one Zcash, there is no one Zcash. I don't think this is a right. I I don't think that's a right way to price Zcash. Like until someone is trading, 3 to 4 Zcash in one lot, you're not going to get a true price. And this is what makes this incredibly stupid. And forget the 20% of the founders. Obviously, that's bad because Zcash is a company. It's not even a coin. It's like you don't even know where to begin. I'm sorry, guys. I know I have these rants with the DAO and with Steemit, and I never really got one off on Monero, and I never really went off on Dash, but I could have. But in this case, it's like they should have done the opposite. They should have they should have had more supply in the beginning. So kind of like Ethereum, right? I mean, Ethereum is a scam in a different way, but at least when Ethereum began trading, there were 60 million Ether, and there was enough supply from the crowd, from the illegal ICO, and then they build up another year of of hype, and then when there was second layer of demand, there was plenty of supply. What Zcash should have done is they should have done it the opposite way. They should have had, like, I would guess, insta-mine as long as it's fair, so that there is at least supply. Or they should have struck a deal with the miners and exchanges, saying that for the first month, you can't trade the coin. And I know this sounds crazy, but they could have easily accomplished this deal with some kind of a contract saying if the top 10 miners and the top 10 exchanges break this agreement, we're going back to the Genesis block, and all of you and everything that you've mined is will be a waste of energy and a waste of your money. They should have had the opposite thing. Zuko's been pitching this nonsense for 2 years. He might be the only person that's been to more Bitcoin events than I have in the last 2 years. And that's actually saying something. And he's been funded, and they want to get their money back. They're collecting 20% from every block for the first 4 years. That's what I believe. That's what I'm finally someone explained to me is how they're doing it. And 20% for the first 4 years will equal 10% over the lifetime of the coin. Because after the first 4 years, supposedly, a quarter of or half of the supply would have come into existence. So they'll get to keep that. This is really bad. I saw the list of the investors in this thing, and it's Roger, and it's Barry, and a bunch of other people I don't know, but I know Roger and Barry, and I don't know. It's getting hard. It's getting hard to apologize to these guys because I like them as people, but when they keep doing stuff like this, it makes it very, very difficult. I think Zcash is completely stupid. It's the latest squirrel after Monero was the previous latest squirrel. And in 3 months, there'll be another pump. I mean, I want to say this is as stupid as we get. There's going to be another one. I'll let Chris talk about a more specific situation that he mentioned in our green room. So I will leave it at that. Maybe I'll come back in if I think of anything else. It's just so stupid. I don't know what else.
It's been tough to watch with Barry as well, Tone. Have you seen his Twitter lately? He's very much celebrating Zcash, announcing it, promoting it. And then if you look at something like CoinDesk, the independent journalism company that he bought, they've been announcing it and promoting it. Not that there wasn't enough hype out there anyway, but they're just adding to it. Can't they just quietly enjoy their victory? Wouldn't that be a better way to go, especially potential violations?
I agree with that. And also they own CoinDesk. CoinDesk writes an article about Zcash, and then at the bottom, disclaimer, CoinDesk is owned by, the digital currency group. Is that very, I always get them confused.
Yeah, and when you see it on every single article, and I mean, I applaud DCG for investing very well, but the CoinDesk purchase seems so questionable when every single article has it at the bottom. We invested in this company too. I mean, I don't know. It's a very curious thing.
Yeah, no, it's really bad. This is one of my problems with Barry lately. is because of this kinds of stuff. And it's like, and I even talked about it. And here's one more. So I know I want to have Chris talk, but I don't know if people can see this. But if you look at his fund, it's in the last 365 days. Well, I did this like a month ago. So, but in the last 365 days, his Bitcoin fund returned 200%, while Bitcoin only returned 165%. If you understand markets, if you understand trading, this is so either his fund is going to crash, or there's something going on there that I don't want to speculate on, because I know I don't want to get a cease and some kind of a lawyer action from Barry Silbert. But this is not normal. This is I don't know. Barry's been
Tone,
a little shaky lately.
Supposedly, that premium derives from all the lawyers and paperwork and red tape that they went through in order to get their thing on the exchange, where people can use their retirement accounts. It has very different capabilities than Bitcoin and very different tax implications. So that supposedly is the reason for the premium. But I think in the long run, what you're saying about that divergence is probably true, I think.
Oh yeah, that maybe. I mean, it made if like a quarter of that money is going to be taken out in taxes, then they kind of did make the same.
I agree with Gabe. I think that Bitcoin that you can trade with the exchange traded fund are different than normal Bitcoin, which are different than Bitcoin that you get directly from the miners. But let's move on to Chris Ellis and see what you have to say about Zcash. What did you think of the very exciting launch today?
It took me back down memory lane, and I want to take you all with me. Do you remember 42, the 42 coin with the scarcity? There will only ever be 42 coins ever in its existence. Wouldn't you just love to own a whole one, right? And so look, I can't add a whole bunch to what some very erudite people have already talked about. I have kind of now renamed this show officially to the Tony Vase Group. I have announced on Twitter, so it is official. But what I want to do is I just want to hone in on something very specific, which is this website, Bitmex, and how a lot of people are getting wrecked. I am a member of the Whale Pool chat group, whalepool.io. It's a TeamSpeak chat room, so it's like you get on your mics and you can start talking about trading and how to get into mining and stuff. And basically, a lot of the people in there have said that they keep getting wrecked on Bitmex, and the reason is for this reason. It's the way they handle the isolated margin. Basically, when you're margin trading, you're borrowing against collateral that you put down. And in the case of Zcash, you were allowed to borrow 2 times whatever you had. So if you had a Bitcoin in your margin account, you could spend up to 2 Bitcoins worth. And then as the price goes up and down with market trends, they will dynamically deduct or add back any profits that you're making. But if your account goes beyond your ability to pay in your isolated margin account, obviously they will do something called a margin call, which is where they will essentially take all of the money away at a market order. They will sell your investment for you forcibly. And the reason this is happening to so many people is because the interface on Bitmex website is very different to other platforms that people might be used to using. And what's happening is that they're getting you in at such a low, such a high sort of leverage and low risk limit that you can easily be margin called without even realizing it. So I put in a bid earlier on today just for one Zcash coin. I thought, fine, take part in this little, Ponzi scheme, whatever, this little lottery, I guess. And I put one bid in and I was margin called within 30 minutes. I came back to the computer and I had a lot of money for somebody like me who doesn't earn any money taken out of my account. I was like, how the fuck did that happen? And I went on to TeamSpeak and everyone was like, oh yeah, you should have used cross margin. Oh, great. Because what happened was that Zcash just went down on a wick because they've got crappy liquidity on Bitmex. It means the price can go from like 0.8 down to 0.4, like even quicker than Poloniex does. Poloniex actually has quite a lot of liquidity. A lot of people are trading. But what happened earlier on in the day was it went down to 0.4. I got my bid filled at 0.7 or whatever it was. and it bought for me, but then it liquidated me within minutes. And so just to warn you, I mean, I have, had a go at Sam before, and I sort of poked him on TeamSpeak, and I put out public warnings on Twitter. I mean, I've heard really experienced traders talk about how they've margin called themselves just by pressing a button, just pressing the wrong button, just an honest mistake. Like they pressed a button and suddenly they had like a chunk of Bitcoin just lost. So please use this platform at your peril, because they were trading. Part of the problem with this pump and dump is that they were trading this before it even launched, which just added to the speculation even more. It's bad enough as it is with Vinny Gupta saying that this generation of gamblers just don't know their own risk management. I was saying that 4 years ago at Feathercoin meetups and Bitcoin meetups in London, where I said, be honest with yourself about your tolerance to risk. And people just weren't being honest with themselves. So this is the website. I'm not saying they're bad people, perfectly nice people. It's just that a combination of low liquidity, high leverage with this crappy risk. You have to press this tiny little button here. Can you see my cursor? So this button right here at the bottom, you see where it's got a little penny. You have to press that first, and you have to tell them that your initial you want your initial margin to be bigger. Otherwise, like I say, you can be margin called in a matter of minutes. I had some other thoughts on it as well, but I think they've been so well covered. I would like to say that with all these pump and dumps, that we're all in a big wealth redistribution game in this crypto world, and that Coke doesn't pay for itself. These developers, as reputable as they are, like Zuko and famous Zuko's Triangle, he is a very reputable guy. Doesn't mean he's not greedy. Doesn't mean that his biz dev team can't go off and come up with a fraudulent money supply system, and he just kind of sees no evil, hears no evil, speaks no evil, and just kind of gets on with his job. Just because people are smart doesn't mean that they're not dishonest, and more money will be made on shorting this. When eventually, because there are some really good traders out there who know how to short these pump and dumps, and when these coins top out, more of the money gets distributed to all the people further on down the line. So those are my thoughts.
All right. While we've been speaking, Zcash rose to around 28 Bitcoins per coin.
Tom,
it rose up to 33.
Tom, you mentioned something, dude. Look at that chart. It hasn't even got the top volume. It's not as high as XMR. It's not as high as Ethereum. Look at how many what's on the bid side. 800 Bitcoins on the bid side. That's not the book isn't thick enough. Like, look at the people that are on this list of investors. Look at the people that are involved. You're fucking Gavin Andreessen. Really?
Like there's almost 4 Zcash available for sale.
Almost right, but dude, that's just been like mined. Most of this is bad.
This is an orchestrated pump and dump. This is how it works. I almost prefer the old days of Fontas. At least back then you kind of knew you were getting screwed, and it was all like up front. And he used to laugh about the fact that everyone secretly enjoyed it anyway. Whereas this is like a proper coordinated. We're going to buy a news website and pump out material through there. We're going to take control of all the information channels. The people on this list of contributors are serious individuals who have a lot of clout in this industry, who can organize, who know the exchanges. They can they can pick up the phone. They can talk to Sam at Bitmex. They can organize things to happen. And that's how they control the price. So just be careful out there.
I mean, I'm not gonna take the price seriously until there's at least several thousand of Zcash coins out there. Until I see a trade go through for over 1 Zcash, that will be the first price I'll kind of take seriously. And I kind of already know what is going to happen. It is going to be like the Steemit chart. And I just tweeted this out the other day, where Steemit has lost exactly the same amount as the US dollar, only Steemit did it in 3 months, as the US dollar took 100 years to achieve this. And Steemit has lost 95% of its value, because the day I'm using for Steemit is the day people heard of it. Not the day the pre-miners had it, but the day the world heard of Steemit. It had no supply. It was all in steam power. Over 99% of all Steemit was locked up in steam power like a CD. So it wasn't there on the market. The Steemit hits the news. People wanted to buy it, but there's nobody there to sell it. And now they're able to liquidate it through steam power 1 week at a time. And this is what you get. You lose 95% of your value, and it's only the beginning because it takes 2 years to power down your Steam, and it's only been 3 months. So we're not even like 1/8 of the way of liquidating all that Steam. That's why Steam is going to zero, and Zcash is going to have the same problem. This is why...
Tone, I've got a final thought here, though, because we want to move on to other topics, and that is that people, there is a never-ending stream of more and more creative ways of making an exit scam in this industry, it seems to me. Right?
Agreed.
People just keep on coming up with like power downs and power ups and like secondary coins and US like floating tokens, and they've got like this like ultra scarce coin in the beginning, and then it's like an inflationary period, and then that now, because you remember like the old days of the pre-mine, like that was it. You know, at least the pre-mine. Now they're giving themselves a 20% cut of the mining reward throughout. That's like a whole other level.
They gotta get more and more creative with how they skim money from people that have no business in this mess. Like, I don't trade altcoins. I don't even trade Bitcoin.
That's tech. It's all about the tech, man.
Yeah.
It's not, the thing is it's not about the tech. That's the thing. All this tech is so easy, and like it's like we did this in the 90s, and all Satoshi did was just assemble it in a certain order, and ever since then they've just been reassembling the pieces. And because these coders know what they're doing, they're like, yeah, sure, I can do that for you. That's really easy, but we'll tell them it's worth $60 million. You know, like it's just a joke. This is all open source code. It's a copy paste job, and you're paying them millions of dollars, and you're enjoying getting fucked in the process. Unbelievable.
All right, let's move on to the exit question. Exit question: the price of Zcash next week, up or down? Theo Goodman.
Oh, it's next week. It's still going up. We have not seen the top. This thing is going to the moon, everybody, and just get, hold on tight and get ready for Alphabet coin of the week.
You can bet your pepes on it. Gabriel Devine.
I believe that the price action is now complete. We will be staying at exactly 31.98999999 for the foreseeable future. I'm thinking probably till 2140.
Forever. It's done. Tone Vase.
Oh man, I honestly don't know. I mean, I don't. This is like the one question I can't answer. It was easy with Steemit. It was just going to keep going down from the day that I heard of it. But this one, because there's no freaking supply. I mean, it doesn't matter. Everyone is trading them at like 0.0001 Zcash for God knows how many bitcoins. I don't think that's not normal. I've never seen this before, like ever, and like probably in history that something like this happened. So I'm gonna say, well, obviously the very first trade. If you normalize it, that will never be achieved. I can see it going to like, I can see some idiot buying one Zcash for like 100 Bitcoins. I can see that happen. I would think that would be the high. Like the moment I see one, like someone committing 100 Bitcoins to one Zcash, that would be my high for like one complete. And just I'm not going to get into the topics, but we didn't have time to talk about the nonsense of why does anyone need fully anonymous currency, and we didn't even have time to talk about the nonsense of the whole seeding parameter, where they have to get like 8 people in the room and it's an 8 of 8 multisig. I mean, those are just like the obvious things to talk about that we didn't have time for.
Well, and don't forget the obvious pump when a darknet market starts accepting Zcash. It's going to go up like crazy. There's lots of great things to pump this still.
But that's not going to happen until the darknet markets, load up at a nice low price, so that they're not profiting from the acceptance of the coin. They're going to make all their profit in the first 20 minutes because they're going to load up on the coin before making the announcement. This is what insider trading is, but that one may be a legal version of it.
I actually think the darknet market that did accept Monero did an exit scam, so it all works out.
I called it on that day. I mean, I can't prove it, and I hope they did. Shit, I wouldn't blame them for it. I hope
that's what they always said about Sheep Marketplace. They said the service was great right up until that last weekend. Chris Ellis. All right, we going on to the next topic? I think we made it through. Yeah. Oh no, Chris, we still have the price of Zcash up or down.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you don't know who the fool is in the room, you're the fool. And if you're not in on it, if you haven't received any like Skype calls, you're not in those user groups, you're not in the Slack channel, you're not going to be the one to make money on this. All right. And the people that Tone said 100 Bitcoin, that will be somebody on the inside buying that for 100 Bitcoin. And it's easily worth it if they've already made thousands of Bitcoins. So they can at least present the illusion. So it's, yeah, it's about appearances. I'm not making predictions on price because only idiots do that.
But you will, you will, like after this is over, from people that made millions on this. You're not going to hear from the people that lost a shitload of money. You will hear from the few winners, like the guys in the chat that were telling me they're going to buy the World Crypto Network and they'll hire me to be their shoe shiner because Monero was going to the moon. And my answer was to him, I bet you in 3 months you're going to switch your tune to Zcash. And I said this like,
to the moon. We could use some shoe shines, man. All right, let's move on. Issue 2, Bitcoin price rises. The Bitcoin price continued to rally from 630, topping 650 and even reaching 690. Allegedly, this rise in Bitcoin price is being caused by Chinese investors who are turning to Bitcoin in order to diversify to avoid yuan depreciation. Gabriel Devine, is this Chinese rocket fuel all we needed to get to the moon? Will the price of Bitcoin continue to rise?
I don't believe that it was the only factor, but I'm sure that yuan devaluation as well as capital controls and other portions of the Chinese market that are mentioned in this article are playing a role right now in the rise in Bitcoin. I'm sure, even if it's relatively minor, I'm also quite certain that the halvening supply squeeze is still continuing. So as I have outlined before on the show, my theory was that in order to soften the blow, possibly even the first halving around in 2012, but certainly this time, miners were surely stockpiling part of their Bitcoin mining rewards as much as they could in maybe a possibly smooth curve or a flat curve, completely flat way. So they just basically pull off a steady amount that's increasing until the halvening, at which point they then have a backstop of previously mined fresh Bitcoin, virgin coin, that they then hold and gradually pay, sell in order to bolster their proceeds to soften the shock of the halvening and their revenue stream dropping by 50%. So I think that a lot of miners have been doing that. The ones that were able to and that didn't have to immediately pay all their bills were surely stockpiling and had a good amount of supply at the halvening, but they've been tapering that amount every day. Probably they've been lessening until they can get down to something that's sustainable with the current block reward of 12.5 Bitcoins every block. So that process, in my opinion, is going to take at least 6 months. I'm sure that they plan for us, a year period of tapering before the halvening and 6 months after the halvening. So we're in the middle of that now. The chart looks eerily similar to the chart in early 2013, where after the halvening in November of 2012, the miners, or there was price action pushing it up. Now, I don't know if it's going to look like that continuing, but that is kind of what happened somewhat around the last halvening, although this time there was much more telegraphing with a little pump beforehand, and the peak in US dollar market cap happening back in June before the halvening. So that's an issue. We've also got wider markets in very weird, uncertain territory. A lot of that is due to the American election, which is causing a lot of jitters all over the world in general ways, politics as well as economics. And you look at the bond price, bond yields are very volatile. The world has gotten more volatile as the market cap of Bitcoin and transaction volume of Bitcoin goes up. Now Bitcoin's volatility is that of a moderate to small equity. So it's actually, you know, kind of a moderate volatility asset at this point. Nothing too crazy when people say, oh, well, certainly for a currency, it's high volatility. But then you look at the British pound, that's seeing some really high volatility. Chris knows that for sure. It's down to about $1.20, I think, right now. So that's pretty intense. So there's
I'm not affected. I've got Bitcoin.
So, yeah, exactly. Chris knows about it only because he gets more for his money now if he keeps his savings in Bitcoin over there. So, you know, Bitcoin is showing a lot of strength. It's rising against the dollar that's experiencing a heavy deflationary period. The dollar index pushing 100. So there's a lot of factors. It's not just China, but as far as retail investing, I'm sure that a big portion of it is coming out of China. And lastly, I'd like to quickly just point out that the most important Bitcoin software upgrade in possibly 4 or 5 years just happened this week. Version 0.13.1 is an absolute landmark in Bitcoin's history. We can talk about it later, maybe story of the day.
All right, segregated witness. I've been hodling and I'll just keep hodling. Tone Vase.
All right, so I am not, I mean, I'm sure the Chinese crackdown against, you know, the way they use their money, I'm sure it's a factor. I don't think it's the factor. I mean, everyone is speculating. There's absolutely no evidence. No one is an expert in this stuff. I mean, for all I know, all the speculators are actually leaving Bitcoin because every month there is like the new greatest thing. And our underlying economy is growing. I mean, our underlying economy is filled with, you know, Crypto Locker and Backpage and Alphabay and the gambling sites, but it's still an underlying economy that has like every month is growing with the demand for Bitcoin. I don't know, speculate, like maybe a few Chinese people are like diversifying into Bitcoin, but I don't want to speculate. I haven't seen any evidence of that. Everything I've heard from the Chinese people that I've talked to, if you're rich, you have plenty of ways to move your money. I don't think that the yuan devaluation, people are screaming, like, you got to stop listening to Trump. This devaluation is not big. It's freaking tiny. I mean, the euro and the British pound are having a significantly higher currency devaluation than the Chinese are. South American countries are having a way higher currency devaluation than the Chinese are. You have millions and millions of dollars, you're not going to put, I'm sorry, if you have millions and millions of yuan, a speculative asset like Bitcoin, unless you understand this space, in order to save, you know, what, 1% of currency devaluation? Come on, give me a break. I don't buy that stuff. Argument makes sense that some of the Chinese are buying all that mining gear in order to turn, you know, registered value into, you know, unregistered value that they can move. That idea makes some sense, but from what I'm hearing, it's really not that hard to move your cash over there. I mean, it may sound hard, but everyone knows everyone that will move it at the rate of $50,000 a day, and it stays in the currency that you know. So I'm not going to speculate that it's all coming from the Chinese. It's coming as much from the Chinese as it's coming from the Europeans. I don't know. Leave it at that.
Theo Goodman.
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of the things. It doesn't really matter if the devaluation of the yuan, how large it is. It just matters that is perceived as something that fuels the price, and that's already done right now. So that is, everyone's eye is on China as far as Bitcoin trading, and because of that, that's why the yuan devaluation is such a big thing every day. If there's an announcement, even if it's just like 0.1% or something, yeah, sure, that's not really big compared to the pound or something like that, but it doesn't really matter. It's just the perception, and it's because it's China. And as far as Bitcoin trading, we all know all the volume for a large part is in the Chinese exchanges. Now, of course, Americans, other people could be trading there theoretically, but it doesn't matter. They're the Chinese exchanges. Everyone calls that China. But there could be other reasons why people are interested in Bitcoin. And there is a lot of uncertainty coming up with the US elections. So who knows, maybe that's fueling a little bit of it. Maybe people need to buy Bitcoin so they can bet on NFL and bet on the election. Maybe people need to buy Bitcoin because of the other things like Backpage and all that. It's definitely going up. And of course, people need to buy Bitcoin so they can buy counterparty tokens so they can go on the decentralized exchange and buy rare pepe tokens too.
Excellent. Invest in rare pepes now. Chris Ellis.
Okay, so this is actually not the Bitcoin chart. This is a chart of Microsoft's stock price. And I want you to just take that in because Microsoft has now gone back up to its previous high, all the way back in its heyday of 2000, back when Windows 2000 came out, and Windows NT, if anyone remembers that lemon of an operating system. And one of the reasons I'm showing you this is because it's actually remarkably similar to Bitcoin's formation. If we look at it on the weekly, going back over a long time, let me take off my stuff there. So you see you have this like initial exponential rise as all the kind of the anticipation kicks in. Then you have like that trough of disillusionment as everyone kind of like is in denial at first. And then it's like, oh yeah, it's going to go back up. And oh no, it doesn't. And as you can see, that we've basically come back up to the previous level we were at before, where we were testing back in 2014 in that summer. If you remember, we went down to the low. This was when Tom and I were on the trip in DC. All the way back then, you kind people were donating to us to get us there, and the price went up to 600 and some odd, near touching 700. We're basically back up at these previous highs, and if we go into the daily now, you can see that after we initially toppled over at that high level, we then a couple of days later, remember we had the Finex hack. We plummeted again. Essentially, the bears got worn out. I think, yes, absolutely, Theo's right that the perception is what's key here. It doesn't really matter whether the yuan really is being devalued. The important thing is that people perceive it, and especially with stories like Brexit that never seems to leave the news at the moment. I think what it does is it puts the state itself into an existential threat. And the more it tries to wriggle and writhe, and people try to hold referenda and they assert their independence, Scotland, France, they're all, have these kind of grassroots movements of populists that want to make their countries great again, in the words of some politician somewhere, businessman. And as a result, like the more they assert their independence and their domicility, and their sovereignty, I think the more people find Bitcoin an attractive option, and so they go to it. And I think, for other technical reasons, I think we were just oversold. We already kept testing these previous lows that we were at from before, and this is called trader memory. I used to be really skeptical of this, and probably Theo is laughing in his mind right now, remembering the days when I was like, none of this means anything, it's all just random. And but then I educated myself and I realized that basically, investors remember the previous highs. This used to be resistance here at 460, and then it turned into support. And we almost tested it on the first round back in June this year. And then we really, really tested it the second time back in August. And so oftentimes it's just about, really squeezing out those longs. And now we're squeezing out the shorts by going back up again. I think it's fairly straightforward.
Excellent. Moving on to the exit question. Force prediction. The price of Bitcoin next week is Gabriel Devon.
Next week, price prediction. Next week at this time, Friday, October. So that would be Friday, November.
Stalling. Classic stalling.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking, 7 days. Right now, the price is about 680. Has the price been moving during the show like last week?
Price is at 684.
Yeah.
Zcoin is at 25 Bitcoin a share.
Well, the Zcoin we already went through. It's going to be exactly what I said. A week from now, Bitcoin, I believe that it will continue its bullish trend, and we're going to see above 700. I think we're going to see 718 in a week.
718. Tone Vase.
I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna go down to about 650. I mean, I don't think we're gonna crash at all, but and maybe I'll comment it later on, Gabriel. But I think it'll be a little tough to push through SegWit, and people are gonna start to panic, and people are gonna rage quit. Definitely see some drops. I mean, the blocks are pretty full right now. There's a big mempool. I can definitely see a drop going back to 650, even 600. Back up. I don't think it'll be that easy.
Chris Ellis.
Oh, let's see. I think 1 Bitcoin will be worth 1 Bitcoin.
A steady level of 1 Bitcoin for 1 Bitcoin. Yeah. Andreas often predicted that as well. Theo Goodman.
We're going to see massive world uncertainty. WikiLeaks is going to go off the hook. We're going to have all kinds of things going crazy. We're going to have massive devaluations and pumping and dumping in the Forex markets. And Bitcoin's going to end up at 777 cents.
The fear of the election will drive the price higher, over 800. Let's go higher. Issue 3. Google made it harder to do screen share, and you have to click like 5 things now. Barclays says no to Bitcoin, but yes to blockchain. CoinJournal, the fledgling cryptocurrency publication available at coinjournal.net, received an unpleasant surprise from Barclays Bank, who shut down their account after a transfer from Circle made the bank believe that their business was Bitcoin related. Barclays is, however, a public investor in R3, the banking cryptocurrency consortium. However, despite their blockchain interests, Bitcoin seems to be a no-go. Tone Vase, your thoughts on the bank account closure?
I don't understand why anyone wants to work with. I mean, Barclays isn't a U.S. bank, but you have U.S. companies. If you're going to run a Bitcoin business, you run a Bitcoin business. Your business bank. If not, don't complain when this happens. So, I mean, it's very frustrating because, Barclays is supposed to be, we're all about blockchain technology, but they're ignoring, the only blockchain of any relevance ever and possibly going forward. So, I mean, it's this at all. I keep going to these blockchain conferences and I just listening to panels. I was even at one last night. And I'm listening to people around me. I disagree with every single person on this panel. It was like an hour discussion about blockchains. Nobody said the words proof of work. Nobody. In an hour discussion, there was like 6 panel members from the industry. Nobody mentions the word proof of work. Anyway, so I'm not surprised by this. One other point, one small point I want to say on this is, I was laughing when I read that going forward, CoinJournal is not going to cover blockchain in order to get back at the bank, which I actually thought was hilariously funny. What CoinJournal should have been doing from day one is talking about how what the banks have been doing with blockchain is stupid. So they might be like all these publications that don't understand that the whole chain was supposed to be proof of work, and they've been covering it like based on what the bank's definition of a blockchain is. And if that's how you've been doing it, good. I'm happy your account is blocked. Maybe you shouldn't be writing in the space. And I know Ian DiMartino has been on the show and we're kind of friends, but I'm very frustrated with all these publications because no one is holding anybody accountable.
Theo Goodman.
Sorry, I was in the chat talking to our fans at the World Crypto Network. Thanks, people in the chat. Yeah, I think that just use another bank. They're going to do that kind of stuff. Yeah, they're into blockchain or whatever, but it's kind of like this. There was a long time ago, and it was before the internet, and it was before people used the internet. And banks, you just went there and you gave them cash and you sent it to people. And then there's the internet, and then there were internet companies and internet web pages. But if you got a transfer from a certain website, a company that has a website, they might block your account, but they have a web page too. Even though they're on the internet, they blocked you. So it's kind of a similar situation. They're into blockchain, but they don't like Bitcoin. So they're just blocking, one part of that, the part that makes sense. So just going to have to use another bank. Too bad for them. They're going to lose business. They're not in the cool kids. Barclays, you're not the cool kids.
Gabriel Devon.
If I were Barclays, I would shut down anything and everything that had to do with Bitcoin. The more that I could delay the inevitable disintermediation and destruction of my middleman business model, the more wealth I could draw off from the populace. So things like this are expected in my book. I'm a little surprised when banks work together with Bitcoin companies. This is the example of the opposite, so I'm not surprised at all, and I expect many, many more instances to come, and I expect a more documented and institutionalized approach rather than the hand-picked approach. I think there's going to be maybe a sweeping internal rule reform or contract reform effort on the part of the banks to completely cut off Bitcoin companies, Bitcoin services, anything to do with Bitcoin, individuals. Also a massive lobbying effort to try to encourage regulators to support their rent seeking further, and with very small exceptions here and there.
Excellent points, Gabe. It really, if you do think about it from Barclays' perspective, what have they really lost here? Maybe $12 in checking fees, $20-$30 if they go into overdraft. It's not a very large account. Chris Ellis,
but now,
go ahead, Theo.
I just wanted to say now people have heard about it because they're watching World Crypto Network, so they're getting
there it is. There's a PR hit for Barclays. Chris, do you think Barclays will survive the PR hit of closing a CoinJournal's account?
I mean, I think the business model of banking is fundamentally broken, and they're struggling really to stay afloat. If you think about the enterprise really of government and banks, is they're very closely related. But I think politically, I think politicians are going to find it very, very difficult to keep bailing them out. The only reason they had a business model in the first place is because the state would come to the rescue if they were too big to fail. And so again, you have another large institution that is facing an existential threat. And I would look, I'm just doing a little Twitter search here whenever I've mentioned Barclays on Twitter in the past. And remember that they sponsored the African Bitcoin conference. They were all over South Africa. I saw Barclays logos and signage all over Johannesburg when I was visiting there with Ali Kanani. And yeah, this is the infamous Anthony Macy, who last I checked was still working at Barclays. And look, there are Bitcoin related people working in the Barclays offices, whether Barclays are cognizant of that or not. I mean, they had to kind of rebrand themselves as like Barclays Rise because they were worried. I mean, I got that from the horse's mouth. I mean, and they told me themselves, the Barclays employees were in a Barclays office in London. And when I asked them what was the difference between Barclays and Rise, as they kept calling it, they said, well, basically, it's like a rebranding thing because we're really unpopular at the moment. The press keeps slagging us off. And so I set about the project of putting my full nodes on Barclays free Wi-Fi hotspots. And you can see here in action, here is a Bitcoin full node. I guess you guys can see that. Can you see it big? So it's basically working off of the Barclays Wi-Fi network over a Tor. Do you see that? Yeah, only net equals Tor. And so that was like back in the day anyway. And I kind of left that running in somebody's office, and I've got it back. So I'm about to put SegWit on there. We're going to talk about that later. But I've got the new version of the full node right here, which I'm going to show you at the end, at the top of the show.
Very good. And we're going to move on to the exit question. Exit question. It's all a mistake. They'll get their account back. Let's see. Tone Vase. Yes or no?
It doesn't matter. I really don't think it matters. Sure, why not? They'll get it back. So
very nihilistic. Oh,
I don't
nothing
think
matters.
it's a PR hit for Barclays, but they might just, get annoyed at the hypocrisy that might be thrown at them. So they'll give them their account back. They'll prove that they're a publication. They get it back. If not, maybe they'll go to Wells Fargo or somebody else. But getting a bank account in this space is hard. But yeah, they'll get it back. But I don't think it's a PR hit for Barclays. They don't care. They're a global bank. Bitcoin is nothing.
All right, we'll put you down for a yes. Chris Ellis, yes or no? They get their account back.
No, and they shouldn't try. They should find a better banking partner like Fedor or someone.
Theo Goodman.
After the massive fallout of the YouTube rumors going around about the bad business practices of Barclays, suddenly get their account back and they all get free Barclay hats, kind of like mine, but with the Barclays logo.
Excellent. Gabriel Devine.
No, I don't think they will get their account back, nor should they even try. I agree with Chris on that. But why does CoinJournal even need a bank account? Can't you pay your writers in Bitcoin and pay for your hosting in Bitcoin?
Gabe, they do pay their writers, but they try to, it's advertising revenue coming in. They allow fiat, and then they convert it to Bitcoin in order to pay their writers. That's how they ended up in this mess.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
The problem's always whenever the system touches fiat. As much as I wish I could agree with Theo, the answer is no. They won't get their bank account back. They probably won't ask for it. They probably don't care. And yeah, certainly Barclays won't care about this. Moving on, issue 4, bank in a box. Stash Crypto released their first product this week, the Stash Node Pro, a small server that claims to be a bank in a box. The box features a 1 terabyte hard drive, a Bitcoin full node, and open transactions. A new protocol that claims to offer anonymous transactions, micropayments, and even encrypted messages for the users of the Stash Node Pro. Will this technology rival the Lightning Network, or will it be a flash in the pan? Chris Ellis.
Right. Okay. Where do I start? I mean, God, this thing is like, okay, the final verdict, if anyone was following it on Twitter, where I was like, just really laying into these guys. Because first of all, Chris Odom, whom I actually kind of respect as a developer, not so much for his past as a pickup artist, but leaving that aside, I respect him as a developer. And I had seen and heard of open transactions. I refreshed my memory today. I had a look at the code. It does look quite cool. But basically, I saw a bunch of shills. I got a DM from this bot account saying, thanks for retweeting Stash, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So I'm actually being incited. They're inciting me to have a go at them because I'm getting Juno Manita, whoever the fuck that, or whatever the fuck that is, whoever's controlling it, is telling me that I need to be tweeting out and giving me this press release, which is, by the way, an absolute piece of shit. And it's just full of bank in a box. It's got a call center I can call up if I want to reverse a transaction on the blockchain. They can just have a word with a couple of miners, maybe work something out. I mean, and so to me, Chris Odom, dude, you did the whole mystery method thing. You did that whole chat up line. You know how to do that. You clearly didn't write this press release, because if you did, I would have been all over this $1,000 device for open source code. And I'm just staggered, because basically somebody then found the very device that they're talking about on Alibaba for $250. So the markup is something like $700 or so, right? They're making $700 profit. And there was some wrangling with Christoph Atlas. I don't know what was going on, whether he was being paid. I know there's this website on bitcoin.com. They mysteriously got this article on bitcoin.com, but Roger Ver has set up this website called birds.bitcoin.com, which is currently down. I'm showing you an archived version of it. and basically you get paid to tweet things. You see here millibits per 100 followers. Except it wasn't actually paying people, and there was some teething problems with it. He told me privately that he was going to get that sorted. So I'm not sure what I trust on the internet anymore. I don't know. I like Christoph a lot. I respect him a lot, but the way he was defending what seemed to be an indefensible, bunch of claims. I mean, where do you want to just pick a random paragraph and we can just just pick something out from this bullshit? Open transactions is a financial system based on cryptographic proofs. It enables cost advantage, eliminating server-side theft and fraud. And it's like, yeah, but for $1,000. But then what happened was, I went on the video last night with Chris Odom. He started out with a kind of half truth. He said that this was the only full node that he was aware of, that he thought existed. Obviously, he is not the first person to release a full node. Even I wasn't with this device, which was very well publicized. I think we got in every publication in the industry. So either guy's been living like an ostrich, or he's just completely naive. And never mind Bitsy either, bitsy.org, and never mind the 21 computer, which is a Bitcoin miner, which presumably has the blockchain on it. Otherwise, how is it mining? Maybe via the pool, but that would be kind of silly if they did that. But eventually what it boiled down to, I rewatched the video from last night in Chris Odom. It's basically a $1,000 computer, which you can buy from Alibaba for $250 with free open source software, free licensing. And I'm failing to see the value proposition. Then at the last minute, Chris said, but this isn't like the product I would have put out. And so now I've realized something. Chris is actually the smart guy here. Whoever's running his PR campaign, wherever the CEO is, that's the one fucking up. Because what they should have done at the outset is they should have said, this is an enterprise device. We are aiming this at merchants who don't want to have to set up daemons and, running stuff on servers and AWS and bothering their IT department with that. We want a turnkey solution. We want something that we can just plug and play, and then we've got our Bitcoin wallet, because it is genuinely cool. Like, open transactions is genuinely cool, and they're using BIP47, I think, which is the private transactions. And that's also very cool. Samurai Wallet, if you haven't used it already, was the first implementation of it. You should definitely go ahead and use it. It's basically dark wallet as it was meant to be, but this time finally implemented. So the long and short of it is, I do like the device. I genuinely like the idea. But if anybody out there just wants to send me one Bitcoin, I will literally just rebuild it and sell it for $500, because I think that is, because what I'll do is I'll just go to the Alibaba website. I'll just get it. I know the code. I found the code on their GitHub. I'll just download it, install it, release a disk image, and you all can just get it at a much cheaper price. So send me a Bitcoin. I'll reverse engineer it. I'll open source it, and then they'll be forced to lower the price.
Well, and I think, Chris, this is similar to the 21 machine. When it came out, everyone freaked out because it wasn't a good value for a miner. But if you're a developer and you don't want to spend a bunch of your time setting things up, you just want to buy a box and start writing code, that 21 machine might be useful. In the same way, I think what Christoph's trying to say is he's excited about open transactions. People have wanted to try this out for a while. If they can buy a box and try it out, and agreed for people on a fixed income, $1,000 is a lot of money, but for developers that make a very good income, putting down $1,000 to avoid installing things, to avoid looking at screens. I mean, you pay for convenience.
Not $700.
I just think it's an interesting way to test out open transactions.
No, dude, you don't pay $700 for convenience.
It's not, I mean, but people spend hundreds of dollars on bar bills. Like, you have no idea. There's a lot of waste to this.
It's github.com/open transactions. They've got Linux hardened on there. It's even got how to install it. Like this, I think this is for the OS 10 version. But so I can literally teach a 7-year-old how to do sudo apt-get in Linux. In fact, I know I can, because I have sort of set a 7-year-old how to do sudo apt-get in Linux. It's super fucking
And I think that's a good time to mention. Way to go, Ollie. Good luck on your Kung Fu grading tomorrow. He's going in for the black belt. Let's go, Ollie. So
good luck, Ollie, man. Good luck.
See, there's good things out there. And yeah, I mean, it's expensive, Chris, but let's move on. Let's talk some more about open transactions. Theo, do you have any thoughts on the Stash Node Pro and open transactions?
Sure. Well, it's called Stash. So can you hide any drugs in it or something? I mean, what is this? Does it have a secret compartment? Maybe that's a good use then. It looks like a computer and it has a secret you have to kind of press certain parts of the box and then something pops up, a secret compartment. That would be pretty cool. Then it would be a real stash, you know, or maybe
I do
like
think
it's
part of the usefulness is you store your funds
cryptographically.
on there and then you use a remote wallet. So it is like a stash. I mean, it just
Yeah,
adds.
or like it cryptographically does something. You put your hand on it and it's only your hand, and then the secret compartment pops open or something like that. That would be a real stash. You know, so first of all, the name is incorrect. If there's going to be a stash, and I got to be able to hide something in it. So they got to think about that. It's a cool, I like that, you know, it's a
It
one-word
does have
name.
confidential. It does have confidential transactions, so technically you can hide stuff in it.
Okay, that's cool. I like that. Maybe I think that in the next version, it should have a self-destruction thing so I can destroy the hardware of it or something, or I don't know, something like really weird, because like you said, it doesn't, I'm trying to figure out what's, like you said, what is the value proposition? What's the greatest part of it? It's a cool object. Now, if it was more collectible, like with these like limited edition serial numbers and autographed by the dev, or you know, you can get like cool colors. It kind of reminds me of buying a game console full of flash games that you can play online, but they're all in one console, and that actually even exists. And people even buy those. There's like these little things you attach them. They're a lot cheaper. They don't cost $700, but still they do exist because it's just kind of fun to be able to have the physical object in your hand. So I get that part of it, but it's not collectible. It needs to be more like a Beanie Baby, and then it would be okay.
That's, you know, look, what I haven't said, I mean, we all need to declare our interests, and obviously when we're working for someone, we need to say like, I'm working for them and that's my, you know, declared interest. But this is
Sure.
this is what that was, right? This was a Beanie Baby. Essentially you were buying each one. I signed the CPU serial number for you. You got a collectible edition. It's a learning device, right? And I think where 21 fucked up, because 21 originally got their idea from Metabolo on Twitter. And I sort of, as an adjunct, kind of came up with the idea sort of independently. And then he reached out to me. And then this other guy from Mexico, Bitcoin Full Node on Twitter, reached out to me and said, oh, yeah, I'm building an operating system too. But all of our focus was on education. 21 came along and basically trebled the price, or even, you know, quadrupled the price of what we were offering, especially Bitcoin Full Node guy. He was offering his operating system for free, basically, to the end users. He was charging the altcoins money to put their implementation on his device, which is a very clever marketing scheme, because then people could just take that off if they didn't want to use it. So he was monetizing it that way. And I think it's a little bit dishonest for people to sort of, you know, jump on these bandwagons of hardworking open source developers like us and then like mark it up, you know, 100% or like 1,000% or whatever. Like what they should have done, Stash should have done at the beginning, is just said, this is for enterprise grade users. This is not for hobbyists. But they didn't do that. They went with the whole bank in the box bullshit, and they need to hire a better marketing team.
It's also tough with the Ethereum thing going on. A lot of the hobbyists do have money to spend on this kind of thing, Chris. Remember when the Altair came out? Bill Gates was like,
I will give you a prediction. They won't sell more than the amount that they've offered. 21. I think the first 21 you can buy for a Bitcoin. So if you want to buy me one, get one quick. But I don't think they'll sell many more after that. I think that'll be it.
All right. Gabriel Devine, your thoughts?
Yeah, this is an interesting subject. Definitely ruffling a couple feathers over here. You know, I gotta call out Chris a little bit on this. I believe you mentioned at some point when you were making your full nodes that you were paying yourself £3 an hour.
US dollars.
Okay, $3 an hour. You know, that is a martyr rate. It's below the poverty level in our countries, and one can't expect people to do that. You are doing it out of visionary reason in order to increase the robustness of an ecosystem that you believe in, and that's admirable. But I don't think it's realistic, and I don't think it was.
Sorry, no, hang on. That's not factually correct. There was a 15% markup on the devices, and the rest of the money went to ProTip.
Okay, yeah, so you're taking like nearly nothing for yourself, for your labor. You're a skilled person who's able to do installs on these nodes. And remind me how long it takes to do an install? 30 minutes, 45?
Once I've done the initial one, which takes many days to get right and everything has to be perfect. Once the disk image is done, it takes about 6 hours once the testing is finished.
But how much actual labor?
And then I can do 3 concurrently. So there's a little bit of maths you got.
But it doesn't take 6 hours of labor to do 3. How much actual? You're just waiting.
Because I can just leave it testing.
Yeah.
But 6 hours end to end in terms of like putting the memory stick in, boosting up, running the test, signing the signature, putting it in the box and shipping it.
Okay. Oh, well, shipping. Yeah. So you got to look at the market for this Stash Crypto Pro. They've got a CTO who's or they've got a contracted dev whose time costs them say $100 an hour. And if it takes your guy to make an implementation that hasn't been tested as well as a professional product, if they're looking at a guy spending probably 20 hours maybe to make their own special node that has the abilities that they're looking at, maybe more, that's $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. So in that sense, they are undercutting the price of creating this thing, and you've definitely done a rock bottom price, razor thin margin that it's not great for your lifestyle. It doesn't help your lifestyle.
Yeah, but it's also, remember the excess profits went to ProTip. The ProTip is still working. It has been bug free since week 1. Like, we had initial bugs because of blockchain.info went down, but after that, ProTip has worked flawlessly for 500 users. That money had to be spent on ongoing development cost. So I rediverted the funds. So there was a 15-ish % markup once you take off the postage, which was included. There was, that profit was there. I just chose to offset to the organization ProTip so that I could keep the app running. And so there was no funny business. Now, all I'm saying is, like, if you're gonna market something, like, get your audience right. They clearly want enterprise level, so it's a red hat model where there's going to be some consultancy. But don't say it's worth $1,000 because we stuck our logo on it. It's worth $1,000 because it comes with an SLA, it comes with some integration or something. But they didn't. If they'd have said, if they come to me now as like somebody to advise them, I would tell you for free right now on this show. Tell everyone how hard you've already worked making open transactions open source, and then tell them the reason the price is such is to help you recover the cost to keep that good work ongoing. Because essentially what they did was they gave us Lightning Network before Lightning Network. I think that's fucking cool. That deserves some serious respect. That all got lost because not a single person, apart from Christoph Atlas and some other shills and stuff, just trying to defend this thing, it all got lost in that because all anyone could do is obsess over the price and the literature and the marketing. So I would encourage them to reboot, rebrand, get rid of whoever was writing that press release and the CEO, and just tell everyone how hard you've worked to get it to this level and why that price is justified.
I agree with that, and I just want to clarify that it was quite the opposite. I was not trying to call out any funny business on your part. It's quite the opposite. You were making a sacrifice, and even if you had decided to keep that small profit margin for yourself, you made a very big personal sacrifice. My point is, nobody can expect companies to make that type of personal sacrifice. I don't think that's a reasonable bar. So in the sense that they're looking to recover some of the labor that they put into creating this device and to creating their open source platforms, I think it's quite reasonable that they would want to have a high profit margin. But your point about the marketing is really dead on. This is a field in a quickly changing world and an extremely quickly changing tech ecosystem. Crypto is very different from other business models, and it's on the forefront. It's on the cutting edge of societal trends, and this very rapid trend toward transparency, sometimes forced through leaks, but if you're doing it well, like yourself, then you're offering that transparency to the public in order to induce trust through facts. And this is something that Chris Odom, I think, maybe hasn't quite cottoned on to. He's a newcomer maybe to the crypto business world. And he's like, okay, well, I'm a tech company, so I'm just going to get a CMO and they're going to write our press release. And they didn't quite think through that this is a different time. This is a different audience. This is a different, subculture in the economy and in our society, in tech. And it's important to shift your message. You know, I think Purse is good at doing this. I think that, you know, 21 is good at doing this. 21, for example, marketed toward developers, and their product is a very developer-friendly thing that you might diss it for some reasons, but it is definitely, you know, marketed toward developers, and it is a developer product. And by the same token, I completely agree with you that just calling it pro wasn't enough. They needed to make more clear that this is genuinely for pros. If you are holding less than 20, 30 grand worth of Bitcoin, you probably don't need this thing. But if you're a company that's pushing Bitcoin in and out, you want to make simple smart contracts for your payment systems. You want to have messaging along with your payments. You know, and you said be your own bank. Well, it does have messaging protocols, so at least it's performing a minimum of, you know, some of the things that banks do. You know, these things are so useful, and I'd like to give a shout out to Daniel Krawitz, who's written some excellent propaganda, pro Bitcoin propaganda over the years, and I believe he came on board with Stash to create this, and to as a developer, helping to create these products. I'm sure it's a good product, and like you, I'm very, very interested in the open transactions open source platform. I mean, I was really confused as to what the heck it was a couple of years ago. And as time has gone on, I'm like, okay, these are cryptographic tools that can be used with a variety of different protocols, different things. I don't necessarily agree that open transactions doesn't need Bitcoin, for example, or doesn't need some other asset that is backed by some sort of resource or work. But that doesn't take anything away from the power that it brings. And this is something that companies that want to spend and earn Bitcoin in and out, you know, accounts payable, accounts receivable, that ecosystem is still very immature. And open transactions is a huge shot across the bow to say, hey, we can do this, we can do it better, we can do it more anonymously, we can do it more securely than everybody else, and we can do it cheaper because it doesn't even require a person. So I think he was trying to tell you guys that on the interview, and I think that was really cool how you were pretty easy on Chris, because you realized what was actually going on was that this was a messaging issue and not a tech issue or a business issue with them. So
Correct.
Yeah,
You
many
understood me
props.
correctly.
You guys for that. This is just a, you know, initial product. They're trying to get out there, maybe get a little cash in the door, encourage their investors or whatever, and get a little momentum and for their next few products. And like I said to Vortex when he sent me the link, is that when I saw it, I was like, that is really cool. And then I was like, whoa, that's a price tag, sticker shock. But that is, it seems like a very, very cool box. It's kind of a no-brainer. If you're running a serious crypto company holding a few hundred or a few thousand Bitcoin, boy, you probably want to have a few of these in your office, or at least one or two, to you know, handle some of this work, and you know, get your CTO, you know, to get your monetary engine flowing smoothly with all these incredible advances in crypto, and in using crypto on a day-to-day basis for profit and for businesses. I think it's a really great step forward.
Tone Vase.
All right, I'm gonna make this very, very short. Well, one of the main reason is this topic is completely outside my area of expertise, right? I've never owned a full node. I don't even know what I know what a full node Bitcoin full node is, but as a regular person, I don't see any need for this because I'm not a developer. The one question I have is what Thomas was saying. Well, if you're a developer, you want to buy this thing and go. Well, if you're a developer, shouldn't it be easy for you to download a bunch of open source software and put it on a $250 box, like Chris says, right? So if you are a developer, it should be easy for you to kind of put this thing together yourself. No, but again, I'm not a developer. I don't know. Gabriel made really good points. I can actually add to that. The entire concept of a corporate structure, which Chris doesn't have in building his own that he's been doing, that adds an additional layer of cost that they're probably trying to recuperate. And besides all of the actual hands-on stuff, if you have a corporate structure, that means you have lawyers, you have additional fees. So these costs do add up. And I'm a small business owner myself, so I kind of know the insanity of costs and regulations and how they add up. So Other than that, I personally don't think I have a need for it. The one other thing, when I read the article, I just want to read one sentence. It says, the team plans on implementing more protocols on the Stash financial infrastructure. Innovations coming soon includes trustless coin mixing, multi-signature technology, cold storage application, SMS integration, multi-currency support, payments through SMS texting, and much more. That just seems like an insane list of claims to me. When I read things like this, I become very, very, very skeptical. I mean, this is the kind of stuff you read in like infomercials, and like Paycoin is going to bring you all of this, and Steemit is going to bring you all of this. So, I mean, I'm sure they got this from their press release. It just like sounds, and the price tag is not even in there. Like I read the whole article, I didn't know it was 1,000 until you guys said it, and of claims is just doesn't sound good at all. It just sounds way unbelievable to me, and I'm not sure where the need for this is. I'm also not a fan of black boxes, which is why I have never owned an iPhone in my life, and I still get very pissed when I buy an Android phone and I can't even remove the battery. Like I'm not even a developer, and I like having some control. Like I don't have anything else to add. I don't have anything technical to add on this issue. I have coded a little bit in the past. That's just not my area of expertise. But on that note, guys, I actually have to go. Late for dinner as it is. I know it's been a long episode. I will miss prediction and story of the week. Maybe I can make it real quick, Thomas, if that's where you're going next.
We're pretty much going there. We were going to do the exit question. Just would you rather get a 21 computer Stash Node Pro or a Bitcoin full node? So, Theo Goodman, which would you like?
I'll have a Bitcoin full node. Thank you.
Gabriel Devine.
I will take the same. Thank you very much.
And Tone, you said, which would you like?
I don't know. I don't know what I would use any of them for.
Supporting the network.
I'll pass.
Chris Ellis, probably like a Bitcoin full node, right?
No, I want somebody to buy me one of these. You can just go to AliExpress.com, buy it for $250, or if you're kind enough, just take the very same box and pay 1 Bitcoin for it on the StashNode.com website. Send it to me. I'll reverse engineer it, and I'll do my best to open source it, and it will force them to capitulate on the price.
Yeah, I think we're looking at sub $200 for these relatively soon, and which I'm really looking forward to.
No, not sub $200, because like even if I do agree to make this an open source, obviously I'm not going to be a dick to these people. Like I'll give them some money for it because I think they deserve it. I'm just like, I'm so tired of this like pump and dump mentality of like hype and bank in the box stuff. So I'm gonna surprise everyone.
Chris, they're actually producing hardware here. It's not exactly a pump and dump. The beauty of the pump and dump is you don't have to actually make anything. Like actually shipping something makes
but buying something and selling it for 4 times the price is a little bit pumping.
No, that's just called business. I mean, they tried to explain it to you like with the, it takes a structure and you have to hire all these people, but no, everything you buy is marked up an incredible amount. You don't want to know.
20% is the 20% is the average on the FTSE 100 here in the UK. I imagine it's not too dissimilar in the S&P in America.
So what's retail, like food, retail.
What's a 20% markup on that hardware, Chris?
It's 20% markup once you've taken everyone's salaries.
All right, let's go to Tone for a prediction or a story of the week.
And right before that, I just want to push back on Chris also a little bit. Now, you are saying that the box is 250, but you're also asking for 1 Bitcoin, so which is almost $700.
No, I gave people a choice. I gave people a choice. They could either buy me that one or buy me the official one, and I'll reverse engineer it.
Well, how much is the official one?
1 Bitcoin at the moment until they sell out of the
Not
first
paying Chris, paying Stash.
Yeah, you're paying Stash, but you're just sending it to me.
Oh, okay. So Stash is selling them originally for 1 Bitcoin at first.
Yeah, for the first 21 units.
So even less.
For the first 21 units, and after that they go to 1,000. But the blank box itself can be bought for
$250.
$250. Oh, okay, so you were talking about just one of those original ones.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they can either get me your original one or they get me box. But in any case, I want to take it apart.
Right, because otherwise, if you were going to be charging people 1 Bitcoin for it, they're not really, selling them at 4x. They're selling them more like, 1.3x, not 4x.
Well, no, my idea was just to make a
$7
disk image and just show people how to build one themselves, and it gives other people. I mean, sooner or later, someone's going to see it. Like if they prove a market exists, someone's just going to come along and sell them for half the price and do them out.
But again, yeah, well, like I said, this is like.
All right.
Well, this is not my area of expertise. I leave it for you guys. I just got a little confused on the fight. All right, so my I guess I'll go with prediction. I mean, the story of the week is the insanity of Zcash. That may not be beat for maybe a month. So I'm sure something stupider will come along. I can't picture it right now. I can't think of anything that would be dumber than this. But I'm sure somebody is already implementing something worse than this. But so my prediction is actually not a very unfortunate one. I think, like I mentioned it briefly earlier, I just want to say a few more sentences. I think pushing SegWit through is going to be kind of difficult. I think it's going to be very hard to get 95% of consensus for anything, and that's a problem. There are hardcore, to prevent this. Not just via BTC, but there'll be others, like even like Zcash supporters and Monero supporters that may be running Bitcoin nodes. I mean, they don't want to see Bitcoin succeed because they think their coin is better than Bitcoin. So I think by default, there are going to be like people that just don't care to update which software they're running. So I think it's going to be hard getting to 95%. I think the way that eventually SegWit is going to have to go through, because otherwise we got a huge problem. I think the Blockstream team will try to get Bitcoin, will try to get SegWit in without the 95% consensus, as long as there is less than 5% people running another competing version of the software, if that makes sense. Like, as long as there's more than 5% hash power on Bitcoin Unlimited, I think the hands are tied to get SegWit in. But if the support for Bitcoin Unlimited and all the other alternatives is less than 5% combined, then I don't really think they even need 95% wanting to run SegWit, as long as there's less than 5% that do not want to run SegWit. So I'm hoping they also see it that way, or we might stagnate going forward with no changes.
Excellent. Thanks for being on the show, Tom. And Mr. Chris Ellis, a prediction or a story of the week.
Okay, so I am currently just finishing up. This is the new prototype for possibly the next iteration of the full node. This is a Nextdock, Nexdock. They are a company that I took part in their Indiegogo crowdfund back in June. They had some teething problems, so they've been a little bit delayed. But I basically got this laptop. It only cost me, I think, $99 plus shipping. But obviously the units retail for more than that if you actually have to buy them 1 unit at a time. So what I'm going to do is just go to, I should adjust the screen. So the latest version of Bitcoin is running. I've got SegWit enabled. I've also enabled pruning. If I just tilt it to the side here, can you see that a little bit better? Yeah. So I've got SegWit enabled. I've got pruning enabled. So I'm just testing the pruning at the moment. It's at the minimum level, which is 550 megabytes. And if you don't know what that means, it means that it will only retain a maximum of about 550 megabytes of block data, which is really useful if you only got a small hard drive. A lot of people have criticized that feature in the Bitcoin config file, because they've said, well, what about, that's not a real full node anymore. It's like a half node. But you are still relaying transactions across the network. You're protecting Bitcoin against DDoSes like Ethereum has come under. And the more distributed the network, the better. And remember that education is a decentralizing force. So a lot of the impetus behind this project, which, by the way, nothing is running from this laptop. All this laptop is a screen, a keyboard, a trackpad, and a 10 amp battery, which lasts forever. And it's actually the Raspberry Pi that's running it. That's the brains of the machine. So it's a Raspberry Pi 3, connects to the keyboard and the trackpad via Bluetooth, and then just gets its power from the massive 10 amp battery, which lasts for like 12 hours on this thing. And it's just an HDMI cable and that's it. So I don't know. I'm going to have to really put this laptop through its paces. It is branded as a cheap laptop. It's about $99 if you buy it at quantity. I will need to speak to the company to confirm it. But if it doesn't break in the first month, that's usually my test. I'm going to throw it around in my rucksack. I'm going to put it through its paces. You know, I'm up for this. Now, obviously, that's not going to be £100 per device. I'm going to have to charge more because it comes with a screen and the keyboard. But it won't be 10 times the price of cost. All right, it will be a reasonable rate. And so, yeah, you know, it's just about building on this stuff. And I am trying to get money. I'm still, you know, with my health, I'm still on the, you know, the old medication in order to be able to do this. But I am trying to solicit money. I want £50,000. I'm not kidding. I want £50,000. Give it to me now, because frankly, I think I deserve it. I've delivered, what, 5 crowdfunds now since we first started, including the DC one that Tom pretty much did for me. But let's just say it was me. And, you know, I've successfully delivered on time, on budget for all of them. I'm surrounded by all these people that keep getting all this free money, and it's doing my head in. Somebody give me 50 grand. 50 grand, seriously. Let me do this and let me ship this out to like Botswana. And I've got somebody as well, guy called Tony Schultz in New York. Big shout out to you, Tony. Dr. Anthony Schultz, to give him his full title, who's a physicist, and we're going to be rocking together with a full node, trying to get different schools to connect to each other using the peer-to-peer technology. IPFS 04 out is also on the full node, latest version of IPFS. So I really want to, you know, push this forward. So give me the money now, please. Thank you.
Maybe someone got rich on Zcash today. They could help us out with some donate, you know. Maybe you got rich on Ethereum. You bet against us. Maybe you got rich on the Dow or the pump or the dump or the shorting or the, what's it called? Leverage. You got to use leverage. Let's go to Theo Goodman with a prediction or a story of the week. I'll use my leverage to make you answer.
Yeah, leverage is quite a tool. That's true. I was going to go with prediction that the Rare Pepe Telegram channel breaks 400 members. Currently, we're at 301. And if you head over to me/Rare Pepe Trader Group, then you can enter the world of Rare Pepe blockchain technology trading, where we are pushing the decentralized exchange to the limit, and you are witnessing the blockchain revolution live in the flesh. Check it out. Be the 400th member.
The flesh is green. Let's go to Gabriel Devine.
All right, I have a story of the week. I'm gonna bring things back to the Bitcoin release version 0.13.1, highly awaited release of the segregated witness transaction malleability fix, along with an effective block size increase coming with the segregated witness if it reaches the activation threshold among the mining hash power of 95%, starting the block after November 15th, which I assume is going to be around the end of November. The release has a few other things in it too, but this is the really big piece that we've all been waiting for. The transaction malleability bug is due to a long-standing issue with Bitcoin that's existed since the beginning, as far as I'm aware, where you know, there's a problem. You know, I don't even barely know how to explain it. There's a problem with getting your zero. If your transaction hasn't been confirmed yet, then it can get overwritten really easily, something like that. So basically, what this does is create some sort of system. I don't even, it's so technical, it's a little above my head. But basically, this transaction malleability bug has been preventing a huge amount of innovation built on top of Bitcoin. There's a lot of companies, a lot of devs, a lot of projects that have been waiting for a fix to transaction malleability because it crushes their dreams of creating cool off-chain transaction payment channels, and goodness knows what else is actually blocked by this nasty bug. So this is a fantastic thing if it gets activated, and it's, you know, a little bit contentious right now via BTC mining pool. Currently, last I checked, was about 9%. So if they can keep up that hash power another month until that point, then maybe they can block its activation, but it'll keep trying to activate it for, I believe, a year. So they're going to have to keep up that hash power for that long. I have a feeling they're not even going to make it a single a single difficulty period. It's not the block after November 15th. It's the difficulty period, I think. So it's about a 14-day window. And I have a feeling that the other mining pools that are pro segregated witness have been saving hash power online, and maybe they took it offline before so that they could play stealth and just throw it all online on the 15th. And that maybe is one of the reasons why we had a difficulty decrease and a little hash rate slight drop a week ago, or whenever the last difficulty adjustment was. So this is a huge landmark for Bitcoin. In fact, this 13.1 release is, well, I guess its activation will be the sort of jumping off point. I see it as kind of as like a springboard for Bitcoin's rise. It's going to enable so much stuff, including the famous Lightning Network that allows not only microtransactions, but also instant transactions that are fully backed, cheaper, faster, smaller if needed, or large if needed. So it's an extremely important landmark in Bitcoin. I just want to point that out. Also, a little shout out to a bunch of our chat people. Of course, Janina Römer, not to mention a new guest I haven't seen before, terrific gentleman by the name of Chuck Gaffert, and of course, the ever-esteemed Acharn. And lastly, but not leastly, Guest It Nair. Oh, and of course, what's his face? G-Dog. I don't know who this guy G-Dog is, but he's on the money.
Very good stuff. And maybe it won't just be a springboard. Maybe it'll be a rocket ship. But my story of the week is the British TV show that's on Netflix. It's called Black Mirror. And I'd read an article about this show a little while ago, and I had never got around to watching it, but the third season was just released. So I went back and watched the first 2 seasons. There's only 3 episodes in the first season, maybe 4 in the second. And it is the Twilight Zone reborn. They take something like a little piece of technology, like I'm not going to try not to spoil it, but I just watched one where you meet somebody and you can rate them 5 stars, 4 stars. You were nice to me. You weren't nice to me. Just that alone, and they blow that idea out of proportion. They have the eyeballs that can take cameras and the memory chip that can remember your whole life, and of course, that gets blown out of proportion. Just everything at the end of the show, you feel dirty. You're like, wow, technology is really awful. Like all of these things could trap us in horrible realities of. One of them, the guy's in a box and it's playing television. And if you close your eyes or you close your ears, you try to block out the television, it plays a high-pitched squeal until you move your hands back. You have to pay to get the ads to go. And if you don't have money, you can't pay, and the ads just keep playing. And these horrible nightmares are all given to us now thanks to Black Mirror on Netflix.
Yeah.
So
Dude, that's actually a classic show here. We've heard that was like 5 years ago now, and it's written by a guy called Charlie Brooker, who's just an amazing comedian. And it's like a black comedy. He really is the George Orwell of our time. I don't know if you got to the episode yet, where they basically, if you've committed a crime, you get your memory wipes, and then you don't know where you are or anything. All you know is that people are going around like haunting you, taking pictures of you, filming you everywhere you go, and then you get like tortured for a crime you can't remember committing. And then at the end of the torture, they tell you why they're doing it to you. It's because you did something horrendous to somebody.
There's been a multitude of like eternal torture things. Like they took this little part of a person out and they made a copy of the person, and then they said, okay, now you're in a box, and they can control the time for that artificial person, and so the artificial person just almost loses its mind almost immediately. Like, and this is
what screws you up though is that all of this is possible. That's what Charlie's trying to say there with that TV show, is that like the one with the prime minister where he says he's going to take the princess of England, you know, and he's going to make her, you know, going to torture her unless the prime minister has sex with a pig on YouTube, and he's got to do, and you're thinking to yourself, this actually is possible. Like, this is totally conceivable. It can be done right now with all the technology we have. That's what haunts you so much throughout all of those shows.
You're watching it, and it's not just about like destroying the person anymore, like cutting off their head or whatever. It's about embarrassing them so badly, and embarrassing the government, embarrassing the people. You think that it might be a terrorist act. You don't know what's going on as you watch the show, but you know, you let it develop. But yeah, just great show. Absolutely dynamite. So I've just been enjoying that this week. The 3rd season's out now. It's on Netflix. Everyone should check it out. Just a quick check-in with Zcash. I was watching it. It went to 18. Now it's back to 22. I don't know. I've just never seen something move so many Bitcoins so fast. Obviously, I don't have any. I don't know how to get any. I'm not mining any. But boy, what a fascinating story. What a great week. Thanks for the 130 viewers that joined us. That's really great. If you guys want to subscribe below to the World Crypto Network, we do other shows like this. We chat about Bitcoin or Ethereum. We have some interviews and stuff. We're also on Twitter at World Crypto Network, or I'm at Mad Bitcoins if you want to subscribe to me. I'm going to go read the chat, so be sure to put all your good comments in there. And I think we're running. So until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.